If you've ever felt ignored, disrespected, or overlooked, no matter how kind you are, it's because you were taught to chase being liked instead of cultivating respect. Today, we fix that. Today, we explore the Machiavellian shift that transforms you from forgettable into formidable. People imagine that being agreeable, friendly, and endlessly accommodating will earn them affection, loyalty, and opportunities. They believe that smooth words and soft behavior create harmony and open doors. But Machiavelli understood a truth that most people refuse to accept. The desire to be liked is the fastest and most silent destroyer of personal power. It cripples your authority, weakens your presence, and makes you invisible in the very world you're trying so hard to impress. From the moment you begin shaping your personality to please others, you hand them the blueprint to control you. You teach them exactly what you crave, their approval, and once they know this, they can withdraw it whenever they want something from you. As soon as your self-worth depends on their validation, they own your actions, your reactions, your emotions. You become predictable, compliant, and easy to manipulate, not because they are cruel, but because human nature is practical. People will always use the tools available to them, and you become a tool the moment you show them that pleasing them matters more to you than protecting your own dignity. People pleasing also makes you less respected because it signals fear. Fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of being misunderstood. And fear is the scent predators are drawn to. When individuals sense that you are afraid to disappoint, they test your boundaries, push your limits, and take more than they should. They do this not out of malice, but because people naturally expand into the space you allow. If you keep stepping back to keep the peace, they will keep stepping forward to claim more ground. You don't lose power suddenly. You lose it inch by inch, quietly, peacefully, politely. The tragedy is that people, pleasers, think they're being noble. They convince themselves they are keeping relationships strong, preventing conflict, maintaining unity. But the opposite happens. Every time you swallow your truth, your resentment grows. Every time you avoid saying no, you teach the world that your needs are secondary. Every time you overextend yourself, you weaken your value. You become accessible, overly generous, and emotionally cheap. The world rarely admires what it can easily take. Machiavelli observed that when a ruler tries too hard to be loved, he becomes weak, hesitant, and vulnerable. This principle applies to individuals as much as it applies to kings. When you try to be universally liked, you adopt a shapeless identity, one that changes depending on the room you're in and the people you're talking to. You lose your edges, your convictions, your power. A person who belongs everywhere belongs nowhere, because no one truly respects what they cannot clearly define. People pleasing also kills your influence because it removes the mystery that makes others pay attention. When you're always agreeable, always accessible, always bending, you become ordinary. Predictability is the enemy of power. People respect those who remain consistent with their values, not those who mold themselves like clay to fit whatever others want in the moment. In your quest to be liked, you strip yourself of the very qualities that make others take you seriously: firmness, independence, and self-respect. And the most dangerous part is how silently the transformation happens. You don't notice your power slipping away because each compromise feels small. Each act of pleasing feels harmless, but each one chips away at your authority until one day you wake up and realize you are surrounded by people who like you, but do not respect you, do not listen to you, and do not fear losing you. People pleasing makes your presence comfortable but forgettable, warm but weak, pleasant but powerless. Respect is not born from charm, warmth, or friendliness. These things may make people enjoy your presence, but enjoyment is not the same as respect. People can like you, laugh with you, even praise you, and still dismiss you when it truly matters. If you want respect in a Machiavellian sense, respect that changes how people treat you, respect that makes your words carry weight, respect that forces others to consider your value, you cannot build it through smiles. You build it through boundaries. A boundary is a declaration of self-worth without ever needing to announce it. It is a line that says, "Here is who I am, here is what I allow, and here is where your influence ends." And the moment others sense that you stand by your boundaries with calm certainty, their behavior shifts. They become more careful with their words, more intentional with their actions, more measured in how they approach you, not because they fear punishment, but because they sense they are dealing with someone who cannot be moved simply for the sake of keeping peace. When you rely on friendliness to earn respect, you fall into the illusion that kindness guarantees good treatment. But human nature does not work that way. Kindness without boundaries is misinterpreted as weakness. Generosity without limits is mistaken for desperation. Patience without assertion becomes an invitation for others to test how much you can endure. This is why many people who are nice find themselves overlooked, while those who are firm and unapologetic command attention without raising their voice. A boundary is not aggression, it is clarity, and clarity is power. When people know exactly where you stand, they cannot treat you casually. They cannot assume you will always say yes. They cannot expect you to tolerate disrespect. Boundaries force others to interact with you consciously instead of carelessly, because they know there are consequences for crossing the line, even if those consequences are silent and internal. Machiavelli understood that power is not maintained through affection, but through structure. A leader who tries to build loyalty through kindness alone creates followers who are fickle, entitled, and prone to betrayal the moment their desires shift. In personal life, the same truth applies. Without boundaries, the loyalty you receive is shallow, conditional, and easily broken. People respect those who respect themselves enough to say no, even when saying yes would be easier. Boundaries also create emotional distance, and distance adds weight to your presence. When you are not always available, not always agreeing, not always accommodating, your value rises. The less people can use you, the more they value you. Humans instinctively assign higher worth to what is limited and harder to access. This is why the person who says no with intention commands more respect than the person who says yes without thinking. Scarcity, even in your approval, enhances your influence. And when someone finally earns your kindness, your attention, your cooperation, it means something. It is no longer taken for granted. It has weight because it was not handed out freely. Your boundaries elevate the significance of your presence and make your positive qualities more impactful. The person who respects themselves forces the world to respect them in return, not through anger or demands, but through the quiet, immovable strength of clear lines that cannot be crossed without consequence. There is a kind of power that doesn't come from strength, aggression, or loudness. It comes from something far quieter, far colder, and far more unsettling: controlled detachment. The ability to remain emotionally steady while others drown in their own reactions is one of the rarest and most commanding forms of authority a person can possess. And in a world ruled by impulses, sensitivity, and constant emotional display, the one who can stay calm becomes the one who stays in control. Controlled detachment does not mean that you feel nothing. It means you choose what deserves your energy and what does not. It means you stop treating every opinion, every argument, every expectation as if it carries the same weight. When people realize that you are not swayed by flattery, not shaken by criticism, and not manipulated by guilt, they begin to see you differently. You stop being someone they can tug emotionally. You become someone they must approach with intention. Most people make decisions from a place of fear, excitement, anger, or approval seeking. Their emotions dictate their moves. They speak too quickly, they react too strongly, they beg too easily. When you operate from detachment, you break this pattern. You do not react just because someone demands your reaction. You do not respond simply because silence makes them uncomfortable. You do not rush to prove yourself just because someone doubts you. You move when it benefits you, not when pressured. And that is what creates authority, the ability to act according to strategy rather than emotion. Machiavelli understood the power of appearing unmoved. A ruler who panics invites rebellion. A ruler who reacts without thinking reveals weakness. A ruler who shows emotional desperation loses the respect of allies and the fear of enemies. This principle applies to everyday interactions just as sharply. When someone insults you and you remain composed, their words lose power. When someone attempts to provoke you and you do not bite, their influence fades. When someone tries to pull you into emotional chaos and you stay steady, you become the psychological superior in the room. Controlled detachment also protects you from manipulation. The world is full of people who test your emotional triggers, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unconsciously. They want to see what they can get away with. They want to see how easily you bend. When you respond with neutrality, calm tone, steady posture, clear mind, you confuse those who expect to control you. It forces them to adjust. It forces them to respect the boundaries they cannot shake loose. And something else happens when you detach. Your value increases. Emotional restraint creates mystery. People cannot predict you, cannot categorize you, cannot place you in the neat boxes they use for others. They lean in closer because they cannot tell what you're thinking. They become more careful because they don't know where your limits lie. This uncertainty grants you leverage. The less predictable you are, the more power you hold. Detachment also frees you from needing to win every interaction. Sometimes silence is victory. Sometimes distance is dominance. Sometimes walking away is the strongest message you can send. You no longer waste energy explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to convince those who benefit from doubting you. You no longer drain your spirit fighting battles that serve nothing but your ego. In detachment, you become selective with your engagement. You learn the art of responding instead of reacting. You learn that not everything deserves a reaction. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions. And not every situation is worth your inner peace. And this selectiveness, calm, deliberate, unapologetic, creates an authority that cannot be faked and cannot be taught through words alone. It is cultivated through discipline, self-respect, and the understanding that emotional control is the true throne from which influence is exercised. There is a reason powerful individuals, rulers, influential minds, and legendary leaders all share one trait in common: strategic firmness. Not stubbornness, not blind rigidity, but a deliberate, calculated firmness that communicates strength without shouting, authority without aggression, and control without chaos. In the Machiavellian world, reputation is everything, and reputation is shaped by how firmly you stand when the world expects you to bend. Strategic firmness means you do not make decisions based on the fear of losing approval. You make decisions based on what protects your value, your time, your dignity, and your long-term advantage. When you hold your ground, you tell the world that you understand your worth. People listen more carefully to those who speak less often, but stand by every word they say. Each decision becomes a message. Each boundary becomes a statement. Each refusal becomes a reminder that you cannot be pushed, pulled, or manipulated at will. Most individuals try to earn respect by being agreeable, hoping that flexibility will make people appreciate them. But flexibility without strategy is fragility. It teaches others that you are willing to sacrifice your own interests just to avoid discomfort. When someone sees you fold under pressure, even once, they store that information. Human memory is sharp when it comes to advantage. And the moment people learn you will compromise your needs to keep them comfortable, your reputation begins to weaken. Strategic firmness is the opposite. It's not about being unkind or uncooperative. It's about choosing very carefully when to be flexible and when to be immovable. A person who is always rigid is foolish, but a person who is firm at the right moments becomes formidable. This kind of firmness makes others recalibrate how they treat you. They think twice before disrespecting you. They hesitate before asking for unreasonable favors. They respect your time because they know you don't give it away easily. They value your presence because they understand it comes with standards. Machiavelli emphasized that leaders must appear decisive, consistent, and unwavering in their core principles. This consistency is what builds a reputation of strength. People want to know where you stand, what you tolerate, and what you refuse. Your predictability in these matters creates psychological stability. Others know you are not swayed by impulse or emotion. They know your decisions are rooted in thought, not fear, and that makes your presence feel stronger, heavier, more grounded. Strategic firmness also shapes how people speak about you when you are not in the room. Reputation is built by behavior, but it is solidified by whispers. When others describe you as someone who does not tolerate disrespect, or someone who stands by their decisions, your influence spreads even without your effort. People who have never met you begin to approach you differently because your reputation has already arrived before you. This firmness also protects you from exploitation. Opportunistic people prey on softness. They look for those who apologize too quickly, who try too hard to avoid conflict, who say yes out of fear rather than conviction. But when you are firm, calmly, consistently, unapologetically, these people back away. They cannot benefit from someone who does not bend on command. And the absence of these individuals in your life increases your inner peace while strengthening your reputation even further. Strategic firmness gives your words weight. When you say yes, people trust it. When you say no, they accept it. When you speak, they listen. When you remain silent, they wonder. This is the essence of Machiavellian influence, not constant force, but calculated presence. People respect the individual whose convictions do not collapse at the slightest pressure. They respect the one who stands even when standing costs them approval. They respect the one who makes decisions with intention rather than insecurity. You were never meant to live at the mercy of other people's approval. You were not designed to be shaped by their expectations, controlled by their reactions, or limited by their comfort. Power is not found in being liked. It is forged in being respected. And respect is earned through boundaries, detachment, firmness, and the courage to stand in your own value, even when others prefer you soft, agreeable, and predictable. The moment you stop chasing acceptance, you reclaim your authority. The moment you stop living for their validation, you become uncontrollable. And when you rise above the need to be liked, you step into the darker, sharper realm of influence where your presence carries weight. Your silence speaks loudly, and your reputation precedes you. This is the shift Machiavelli understood. This is the transformation the world never expects, but always feels. And this is the moment you stop being shaped by others and start becoming someone they cannot ignore.